We're diving right into the final, dramatic years of a kingdom right on the edge of total collapse. This is the story of the Twilight of Judah, a kingdom caught in a massive crossfire between empires, led by a series of kings who just kept making fatal decisions.
Think about it. The stakes couldn't be higher. This whole historical drama plays out in just a couple of decades, but its consequences, well, they would echo for centuries. You've got three kings, and each one has a critical choice to make. You have two giant empires, one fading away and the other on the rise, and it all leads to one single catastrophic end.
So how did it all unravel so completely? We're going to break it down in 5 parts. We'll start with the geopolitical pressure cooker Judah was stuck in. Then we'll follow the chain of rebellions that sealed its fate, and we'll see how that led to the devastating fall of Jerusalem.
Okay, so first things first. To really get why Judah fell, you have to understand this geography. It was a pretty small kingdom stuck in a very, very dangerous neighborhood, trapped between two absolute giants.
For centuries, Egypt was the big dog on the block. But now, the whole game was changing. There was a new, aggressive power rising up in the east, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, led by the infamous king Nebuchadnezzar. So you've got Egypt in retreat and Babylon just relentlessly expanding, swallowing up little kingdoms as it goes. And Judah? It's sitting right in the middle of it all.
Man, it says everything. Babylon's victory wasn't just a win, it was total domination. They took all the land that used to be under Egypt's control right up to their doorstep. For Judah, this was catastrophic news. Their old protector was gone. Now they were completely exposed, living right in Babylon's shadow.
But here's the thing. According to the source material, this wasn't just about geopolitics. There was another, bigger force at play. The text says all of this happened according to the Lord's command, as a judgment for the past sins of Manasseh, a king from long before. So, hanging over this whole story is this heavy sense of unavoidable fate. So keep that tension in your head. Were these kings making their own choices, or were they just playing out a tragedy that was already written?
And that brings us to our first key player, King Jehoiakim. He gets the crown at this incredibly tense moment and makes a decision that becomes the very first domino to fall, setting off Judah's destruction. So Jehoiakim was 25 when he became king, and he reigned for about 11 years. But that entire time was really defined by just one thing: his relationship with Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon.
And we get this recurring judgment, and you're going to hear it again and again. See, the source text isn't just giving us a history lesson. It's delivering a verdict. By calling him an evil king, it's setting the stage for the disastrous choices that follow. It's framing them not just as political mistakes, but as deep moral failures.
And you can see the fatal mistake unfold right here. For 3 years, Jehoiakim plays by the rules. He's a vassal, which basically means he's paying Babylon protection money to be left alone. But then he rebels. Why? We don't really know. Maybe he was betting on Egypt to help him out. Maybe he just felt pressured to restore Judah's pride. Whatever the reason, the choice was a catastrophe. The consequences were immediate, with Babylon sending raiders to just tear Judah apart. Jehoiakim's rebellion kicks off this swift and devastating chain reaction. He actually dies before he has to face the full consequences, but his son, Jehoiachin, inherits the whole disaster. And this is where we see the first major deportation, the first exile.
Just look at that. 3 months. That's all he got. At only 18 years old, Jehoiachin is made king right as the Babylonian army shows up to punish his father's rebellion. He barely had time to get the throne warm.
And there it is again, the same verdict, passed down from father to son. The source material is building a really clear case here. This pattern of leadership, this generational failure, is a core reason for the kingdom's fate. It's another layer to that whole question of choice versus destiny.
So, unlike his dad, Jehoiachin takes a different route. He sees the Babylonian army, knows the situation is hopeless, and he, his mother, and all his officials just walk out of the city and surrender. It was a practical choice for sure, but it was not going to save his kingdom from punishment.
Nebuchadnezzar's response was brutal. He decides to completely cripple Judah by deporting 10,000 people. And this wasn't just a random group of prisoners. This was a strategic move designed to remove the entire heart and soul of the kingdom. And who was taken is the crucial part. Nebuchadnezzar was surgical about this. He removed the entire leadership class. The military, the government, the skilled workers, even the royal family. It was a strategic brain drain designed to leave Judah leaderless, defenseless, and completely broken.
This one sentence just captures the utter devastation of it all. Jerusalem was left as a hollowed-out shell. It became a state without a statehood, populated only by the people who couldn't lead, couldn't fight, and couldn't build.
But Nebuchadnezzar's not done yet. He still needs someone on the throne in Jerusalem to make sure the tribute keeps flowing. So he installs a puppet king, Jehoiachin's uncle. And this sets the stage for the final act, and the final, fatal gamble.
So Nebuchadnezzar puts a 21-year-old named Mattaniah on the throne, and just to show everyone who's boss, he changes his name to Zedekiah. I mean, think about it. This guy owes his entire job to the king of Babylon. He's only king because Nebuchadnezzar says he is.
Incredibly, we hear that same tragic line again. Despite seeing his own brother rebel and fail, despite seeing his nephew surrender and get exiled, Zedekiah is judged by the exact same standard. The source is basically signaling to us, with a heavy sigh, that history is about to repeat itself in the worst way imaginable. So you gotta wonder, right? This is a man who saw firsthand the catastrophic cost of rebellion. He's ruling over a broken, depleted kingdom. Surely the logical thing to do would be to just keep your head down, pay the tribute, and survive. But he didn't. In an act that just seems to defy all the brutal lessons of the past decade, Zedekiah rebels too. Maybe he was pressured into it by his own nobles, who knows. Whatever the cause, this was the final act of defiance, the one Babylon would absolutely not tolerate. This time there would be no second chance.
And so we get to the inevitable, tragic end. Zedekiah's rebellion brings the full might of the Babylonian army down on Jerusalem one last time. The siege is long and it's brutal. The city starves, and when the walls are finally breached, the destruction is total. The temple is burned, the walls are torn down. The source text describes it with this chilling finality. They were thrust from his presence. This is the end of the line for the kingdom of Judah.
So we're left with this massive question. On one hand, you see this clear chain of disastrous human choices, rebellions that were basically doomed from the start. But on the other hand, the source text itself keeps insisting this was all a preordained destiny, a divine judgment. So was the fall of Judah a tragedy of bad decisions, or was it the unfolding of a fate that no king could ever escape?